Kong Ho and Zen, what a week it's been for the two of you, from President Trump signing the executive order to Google coming out saying no more Android for Huawei phones. How much more of a beating can this tech giant take? Kong Ho.
Yeah, it's been a 1-2 punch being delivered to Huawei. The first punch obviously was preventing Huawei from doing business in the US, and the second punch was to restrict US companies from selling critical technology and services to Huawei. On top of that, the US is trying to persuade its allies not to do business with Huawei. That said, Huawei is a $100 billion company. It has business all over the world, and half of its smartphone business is in China. So it's not just going to collapse overnight.
Okay, but Huawei remains, from what I read, they remain very defiant. The founder has come out and said it was inevitable that they was going to clash with the US and that they've always had a plan B. What do you think? How will this affect users across the world from the east to the west? Zen?
So understandably, some Huawei users are very concerned about what this means, if you have a Huawei device, and some of them are panic selling their phones, trying to get rid of it. And we know some smartphone vendors are already, very hesitant about taking on more Huawei stock. Basically, what this means is that people are very uncertain about what kind of device it would be if there isn't any more Android services, if Google doesn't provide Android services to Huawei anymore.
What's the plan B? What do they have up their sleeve if they're not going to use the Google systems?
So we know that Huawei has developed their own operating system. It's called Hongmeng. We don't know what it looks like. There aren't very many details yet, but Huawei basically says that it is developed and ready to go. It remains to be seen whether or not overseas users want a device that is of a completely different OS altogether, that is not Android, so we'll have to see what happens after.
Okay, so there's a rippling effect that we could see more and more Chinese companies being put onto this so-called blacklist, the entity list. I think the billion-dollar question is this week, how quickly are these two superpowers escalating into this tech war? Kong Ho.
Yeah, things do appear to be moving very fast. We have learned of some names that are being considered to be put on the blacklist. Companies like iFly Tech or MacV, which are facial recognition companies. So it does seem like a deliberate strategy on the part of the US to target some of these Chinese national champions, which are leading in their respective fields. And this really begs the question, what does China have in terms of response?
And then Zen?
Yeah, so this really has shown that China is basically very reliant on American technology. Is reliant for semiconductors, is reliant for professional software. So what we're probably going to see is that China is going to double down on its efforts to catch up in terms of this technology, so that it is never again caught in this situation where it is so reliant that it could cripple, a $100 billion company like Huawei.
Okay, so the possibility of a longer list, the question is, who's next? Thank you both so much for your insight.